No, come up and debunk my bullshit.
All right, you're bullshit.
It's always a great way to start a civil conversation. What's your name, sir?
Gregory.
Gregory.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So why the anger and
So,
profanity? That was such a
Anger and
civil
No,
conversation.
let me answer your question. So anger and profanity, because this is an extremely sensitive topic, and I think it's almost ironic you come like such a university that has such a problem with male privilege. And I know you guys, the last conversation was had a lot about racial things, and you wanted to talk about laws, but I want to talk about really about the practicality. So practically, you know, I don't have a car here, so sometimes I like to go down, like I go to yoga. When I walk back, it's at nights. I have my headphones on. I have like a hoodie on, so I'm not aware of my surroundings, and I feel perfectly comfortable doing that. I wasn't really conscientious of that my entire life until about a year ago. I was on the phone with my friend, and she said that she needed to get her textbook from her car, and it was like probably 11:30 at night, and she just wouldn't do it because she didn't feel comfortable. She didn't feel safe.
Sure.
And so that's something that's inherent as a male, biologically larger, and just like women, that's an inherent privilege.
Inherent privilege as a
Inherent
male.
privilege where I can
biological
do that.
privilege.
Biologically, you're going to be larger, taller, and you can overpower a woman, and for the most part.
So you're saying that male, female is biological, first off. That's a premise
I'm
that's
saying
important
there's
to set.
both biological and societal, and there's also systemic. Systemic's going to be where it's just ingrained in a society.
Okay.
So
could you, for example, explain to me what the difference would be between a biological male versus a systemic male, to use your words?
I did not say there's a difference between a biological male and systemic male. I'm talking about systemic male privilege and biological
Okay,
male
well, you
privilege.
said
Male-
biologically men are
biological-
bigger and stronger, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so I just want to make sure we agree on the
Okay,
premise
so let me clarify for you.
you're
Biologically, males have privilege because they are larger. Because of that, they have a certain safety afforded to them where they can go out and then they don't have to worry about. You had a horrible comparison earlier about how males are more vulnerable to being like burglarized or whatever your thing was.
No, I didn't. That wasn't what I said.
Okay, what did you say? They're more likely to be like experience violence than women are.
Can I answer?
And
No,
they're not by the opposite gender though.
Can I answer?
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, they're statistically more likely to be victims of violent crime across the board.
By which gender?
No, you just said. Do you mean gender, biologically, or systemically?
What the fuck is this systemic
Well, you
gender?
just said there were
What is
differences
this
between
systemic gender?
biological,
You just said
societal, and systemic. I want to make sure we're talking about
systemic male
yeah,
privilege.
because
You're forgetting the privilege.
I'm forgetting the systemic privilege.
You just said
Let's
what's the difference between
assume-
a biological gender and systemic gender?
Okay,
There's
well,
no
okay,
such
domestic-
thing as a systemic gender. Difference is
Okay,
that I'm
you-
making
okay,
is
hold on a
between
second.
biological gender, privilege. Don't forget the privilege. It's very important.
Yeah, it's very important to remember the privilege. Yeah. Okay. Violent crime, many of them would be committed by men at large. Domestic violence is very comparable.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying
Yeah, domestic violence would be committed on the same rate from biological women to men as men to
Make the
women.
presumption that men who are more like vulnerable to violence is by other men.
Statistically, having more being the victim of violent crime, yes. Statistically, also being the victim of domestic
abuse. Would you agree
abuse.
that those victims, those male victims, are mostly being victimized by other men?
Sure, let's go with that. Yeah.
Sure. You think that's unlikely?
No, I didn't say it's unlikely. Let's
Okay.
go with that.
Okay. Well, let's.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree on that. And then so for women, they don't have that biologically. We're still on the biological part. Is
Right.
When they're smaller, when they can be overpowered more easily, they don't have the same privilege. When they can't go running by themselves.
Hold on a second. I just said, hold on a second, because you've never let me
I'm
finish
talking
my
about the
one sentence and you
practicality.
came in cussing at me, so I'm going to finish my sentence, and if you want to listen, that'd be great. If you don't have to. What I'm talking about here is privilege. I do not see it as a privilege having a violent crime committed against you at a multiple rate likelihood,
other males.
whether
We're
it
talking
is
about
committed
gender
by a male, but the
differences.
man who is getting
Gender
violently
differences.
assaulted, I do not believe is more privileged than the woman who isn't. And statistically, that's the likelihood. It's
I
not a
believe
privilege.
it is because biologically, that male who's being assaulted by another male has a better chance of defending themselves than a female who is being assaulted by a male. And that's the gender difference. We're going to talk about male privilege.
Sure.
We have to talk about the influence on the opposite gender. I don't give a about when you're talking about like male on male crime.
Really? I do.
This is not what this is about. If
It
you want
is.
to talk about that,
Sure it
talk
is.
about crime. Let's talk about crime. We're talking about male privilege.
Yes.
And I'm bringing up the biological inherent differences between the genders.
I agree on that. I agree that biology
Women
determines sex and gender. Yeah.
Are less likely and less capable of defending themselves against the opposite gender.
Sure.
Through biological.
Listen, I agree.
differences.
That's why I'm a huge supporter of women concealing and carrying.
Okay, that's a completely different subject.
No, it's
Let's
not.
talk-
No, it's not. It's not
Okay,
at all.
yeah, I'm saying it's a different subject because women,
I don't want.
women
The
and-
point is, you're trying to set the premise as though for some reason
I'm
women
saying
are less
this is
likely.
Not,
Can
okay,
I?
let
Can
me
I
say,
respond?
let me say
Can I
two
respond?
things. 2 seconds. This is not about male on male
seconds.
crime, and this is not about access to firearms right now. I want to talk about the practical livelihood or existence of white.
We
of
want to
male
talk about
privilege.
systemic privilege. We want to talk
Okay,
about
so
systemic privilege,
systemically, let's
and
get
then
away from the
no, hold on a second.
biological.
You said 2 seconds. That was about 18. Okay,
ahead.
I'm going to speak
Okay,
now, and
good
I'm
for
not
you.
going to cuss at you. So
Fantastic.
the point is, we are talking about systemic privilege. No one at any point, I am still open to it. Anyone can sit down. Has given me any example of a right afforded to a man, not afforded to a woman. That's what we're really talking about with systemic privilege. Now we've just acknowledged, both of us, that men are statistically much more likely to be the victim of a violent crime. We're
Other men.
statistically much more likely to
Other
die at the
men.
workplace. Okay, now. This is something that matters to me and perhaps not to you, and then that's okay, we can disagree. I don't believe that the man who is 70, 80% more likely to have a violent crime committed against him
Other men.
is privileged, whether it's committed by another man or not. Now, I would agree, maybe we could find common ground in here. What I'm talking about is I don't want to see women victimized. As a matter of fact, most men don't. And the only way a woman would be able to defend herself against a violent crime, though statistically far less likely than that of it occurring with a man, would be a mechanical advantage in a firearm. Would you not agree?
Yeah, sure. It's sure. Yeah, but this is not about guns.
No, it is.
No.
It's
No,
about
this is
protecting
not
women,
about
and
guns.
it's about keeping women from being victimized.
Okay, cool. That's. But men have also. But you want to talk about male privilege, so we're talking about differences between the genders. You want to talk about firearms real quick? Let's end that conversation with this. Men
That's
and
an
women do not have a
equalizer.
different accessibility to firearms.
No, they don't.
Exactly.
Exactly. That's a great thing.
This has nothing
No,
to do
it
with
has
gender
no-
privileges.
There you go. There's no privilege there
What are
as
you
far as
talking
access to
about
firearms.
firearms?
What I'm talking about is wanting to have fewer. Let me boil it down in a way that maybe might be reductive. I would like to read far more headlines, okay, that say rapist shot dead in a ditch by a woman with a .38 special than woman raped on campus because of some concealed carry law.
Okay.
Okay, so
would
I don't
like to
want
see a lot
female
more
victims.
headlines that have nothing to do with rapists. you
I
know?
would exactly.
You know why?
how do you stop
Why
it?
do you have to carry
Rape is
a
illegal.
gun to kill a male rapist when that male could just not rape in the first place?
I know. Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it
would
be?
fucking great? And
Yes.
do you know why women
Wouldn't it
are
be great
so-
if men didn't rape?
Yeah.
Who are you arguing with? You're Don Quixote fighting windmills, man. We all
Yeah,
agree
but
rape
why-
is bad.
but
You
how
think I'm
come-
here saying
how
rape
come
is
they
good?
Get away with it.
They don't get away
They don't
with
get
it.
fucking away with it.
No.
They get away with it on this motherfucking campus.
Really?
Yes, they fucking do.
Okay,
My
give me-
girl-
give-
my
give
friend
me names.
raped within the first 2 weeks of coming to the school as a freshman. She was a fucking virgin too. Milton
horrible.
Daniel Hall. You know what that motherfucker had to do? He had to move out of that hall.
But you had to move out of
That's
that hall.
about it.
Really?
Yeah,
So
that's
this
it.
so this was a rape.
That's
this
how
is
they deal
interesting.
with
This
it.
is a so you're getting very emotional.
Because
okay?
this is serious.
Yes, of course it's
I'm
serious.
a white privileged male. I can go in my,
Yeah.
I can stay in my my little bubble of TCU. I don't have to turn my back. I don't have to worry about my job, my income or anything like that. I don't have to worry about getting raped.
Well, you should.
My friends do.
You should worry. You should worry about your
No,
income.
'cause-
You should worry about communicating
No,
with other.
I'm
Well,
saying I don't have to worry
let me
about it
finish my
because
phrase.
it is not something
you
that is
should
very
worry
vulnerable
about
for me.
You should worry about communicating with adults. You should worry about treating other people respectfully because this will affect your future employment opportunities. You first came in here and talked about how you put on your hoodie, your headphones, you don't even look around you in the periphery. That's dumb. That's stupid. You should worry about your safety. That's fundamentally
here.
unintelligent. White, black, yellow, red, I don't care. It's not smart to do. It's also not smart to come in and
Okay,
say we should get
okay.
men to stop raping
You
as
know
though that's
my
going to help
father,
women.
you know my father, but
I'm
this
not
is
your
the reason
father.
why.
I'm not
Here,
your father.
I
But
would
you come
not-
in here as though
I
you're going to
would
school
not-
somebody and cuss and yell and say you need to stop
no, no.
rapists.
I don't
Everyone
think
here
I'm
wants
gonna
to
school
stop
you. I don't think I'm gonna
rapists.
school you. I think
Everyone
you're-
here wants to stop rapists. Okay. The point is, this kind of doublespeak and this kind of rhetoric and these kinds of false platitudes don't help women. Do you know what you're doing? You're victimizing actual victims of rape. There is no 1 in 5 rape statistic. When you say men get away with it, we allow men to get off scot-free with rape. It's not true,
Yeah, it is.
and you absolve people
Yeah,
of
it
personal
is.
responsibility.
I
Leads
know
to
them.
a worse society.
I
It leads
know
to a
them.
polarized campus. It leads to, God forbid, actual rape cultures like we see across the
There's
Islamic
rape
world.
culture in this campus.
Is there?
Yep.
Okay, and then what is the
100%.
rape culture?
This is the rape culture on TCU is brewed up by, first of all, having twice as many women. Has twice as many. It creates a different social dynamic. Greek life.
So how do you change it?
Let me continue that first example. My friend who was raped within their first 2 weeks
It's
of
terrible.
college here, having lost her virginity to rape.
It's terrible.
The criminal who was uncharged was
Does he have a name?
pledge. I'm not going to release
This
his
will go
name.
out to a lot of people.
The girl did
I would
not
love to
want
see him charged.
The girl, this is not my. This is not my decision. She did not want to release his name. She doesn't want this to be a public thing.
Okay.
Don't judge her for that. So don't roll your head.
No,
Okay.
no. I
Okay,
am
so
making
let
a
me
judge.
get-
I am judging.
Okay. Well,
Not her. I'm judging
okay.
the decision.
You're judging her victim. So it's,
No, I'm
it's
judging
not-
the
it's none of
decision.
your
That's a bad
business,
decision
okay?
because you know what? That guy could go forward and rape
And
another
you-
woman. So the stupid false victim status, I don't want that guy to go out and
Blame
rape
the
somebody
school
else.
then, because she informed
Blame the school because a
She
guy
informed
raped
the
her and she
school.
didn't give the name.
She didn't want to put the name out publicly because she did not want to be.
How do we
associated.
stop a rapist if we can't charge him or get a name?
Here, let me.
How
talk.
do we stop a
Let me
rapist?
talk. I'm gonna answer your question.
Okay.
Let me.
How do we
This
stop
is
that
why
rapist
she
from
made
raping
She
again?
made this decision. Stopping a racist would be to put him in jail.
Yes.
To have the punishment for rape to be
Ab-
so significant, not just taking away a swimming scholarship and attendance at Stanford for that rapist, but at this school, she did not want to put out the name and make it a public thing because she did not want to be associated with directly. This is a small school. She puts out his name, her name gets out there. She doesn't want that. She doesn't want to be known as a victim. Let me finish. The school, no. She did want to prevent that same person or his affiliates from raping again.
Okay.
So she told the school.
Okay, so the school and
school-
police have his name, and there was a
Correct.
he was
And
charged.
he was he was moved out of because he lived in the same hall as her, Milton Daniel. He had to move out of the hall. Both freshmen see each other for the rest of the 4
So the
years.
police were given a name of a man who forcibly raped a woman, and you're telling me they just removed him from the hall. This is the story?
When it comes to conviction, there are other things that are needed. Proof,
Yes.
exceptional things, and in the state.
That's a big one. Will we not agree on that?
Yeah, obviously.
Proof is important.
Obviously.
Okay.
And so, when it comes to the practicalness of this event, it is. Let me talk because we talked about the culture. So I'm talking. I going back to the example because they were Greek, they were pledges, the rapists.
Okay.
And you want to know what his brothers did when they found out about this?
I'm guessing something bad.
Correct. Yeah. They did not go up to her and apologize and say, he's a bad egg. So and so, Greek fraternity, enter
No.
Greek words. Does not back this. We do not represent this. No, they harassed her. They said, do not ruin this kid's life for one dumb mistake. He was intoxicated. He was this. He wasn't thinking straight.
Sure.
He thought you were cute. Okay, that's what they did, and that's why it's systemic. I was a part of a fraternity here. I left because 2 members were put on our version of our internal Supreme Court. They were given chance after chance after chance. They were in positions of power within the TCU community, to where they were subject to incoming freshmen. They were subject to other girls, and they used that power in ways where they ended up harassing these girls, sexually assaulting these girls.
That's
And
terrible.
Within the fraternity, they were given chance after chance after chance until they just became maybe inactive. Or they just they were not big enough, they were not a part of the fraternity enough to where they would shed badness in the light, and that's why I left.
Can I ask a question?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
because
go
you went, you kind of, I think we'd both acknowledge you jumped from a few topics there, so I'd like to kind of zone in a couple, and then hopefully we can move forward. So you mentioned that this man raped her. The school knew about it. The police knew about it. He was simply moved to another house, simply moved to another dorm. Then you said that the Greek house knew about it and basically was encouraging, and they harassed her, right? Okay. Do you have any proof?
Eyewitness account, and that's probably one of the reasons why it wasn't like there was no GoPros everywhere. That's how it happens. That's how it happened.
We just said proof was really important. So any
Yeah.
proof of you just gave this whole example to paint a picture of white male privilege on campus and this rape culture. Any proof?
And proof. I believe her, and
Okay.
and there was, she lost her virginity. There's stains. There's blood. I'm sure if she wanted to call the FBI and make a big deal out of have her name and face painted everywhere, I'm sure
Okay.
Yet there isn't the existence of DNA proof.
Okay, so here's my point. We have to find some common ground and agree on some premises here. So, no proof there that you would be able to present that anyone has
No,
presented.
You may be going in the
But-
direction of assuming that she wasn't raped, and I would strongly advise you don't do that.
I'll take it under advisement. But I do have proof that there's not a rape culture on campus.
You have proof there's no
Yeah,
rape
the statistic
culture.
is not a 1 in 5 rape. According to the FBI, it's 1 in over 1,800.
Okay.
There's not a rape culture on campus in the United States. These rapes do not occur without consequence when there's proof presented. The constant is not men getting away with rape. I'm certainly not convinced of that. I'm not convinced by your account. It sounds like a harrowing account. I feel horrible that had occurred. So you think I feel good about that?
I don't say
But
you
my
feel
point
good,
is-
I say don't give a I'm saying
well,
you're
then
here-
listen, you can ascribe motive
you're
all you
here
want,
to
but
be
I do have proof.
controversial to get some laughs from some people, to put other people down.
Who
You-
came
all
in and
you're
insulted
doing- all
somebody?
you're doing
Who
is
came in here and
pushing
insulted
out.
someone? The only person who's insulted anyone all day here, all day, is you.
Okay.
You
I
came
don't- I
in
don't feel
cussing
bad
and
for
yelling
that.
and swearing.
No, because I'm pissed.
I get
This
it.
is serious.
I get
when
it.
you say
This
there's
is
no
serious.
rape culture and you have a proof of that, you say you don't have the
I
statistics.
do have proof and there is no
Wait,
rape
if
culture.
If you're a girl, you don't got to go out. You don't want to put out say, "Hey, I was raped." You don't want to do that.
You don't want to be raped if you're a girl.
Obviously, we were talking about the statistics.
No, but you said you
You're
don't want to.
saying
You don't want to
there's
go
not a
for
1 in 5%.
Yeah,
there's not even
there
1
is
in
no
5.
rape culture in the United States campus. I don't agree. And the statistics don't reflect that. So if you had proof,
Statistics are you reading?
the statistics of according to the FBI.
80% of women and 12% of men are raped on college campuses.
Incorrect.
This is the biggest research university, Columbia University statistics.
I would love for you to come and sit down when you have the microphone, and I would love to talk about that with you. Now, you see, this is why. This is not me being rude. Same thing I gave Chanel. Sorry, Chanel, I apologize. See, she's not going to give me guff for it. She sees it was an easy mistake. I wanted her to have her opportunity to speak. I don't necessarily agree with her, but I would say it was very respectful. You were cussing, yelling, coming
Okay,
in,
this is not
a
about
little
cussing.
bit
Yeah.
emotional.
Yeah.
And I want you to have your opportunity to speak as well. And so it's disrespectful for her to yell out. We're having a conversation between
I
two
disagree.
people.
This is not about cement. This is not about being like, we're not in a parliamentary system
It's
where
a-
you're not allowed to interrupt and shit like that. This is important.
You're actually allowed
I
to
want
interrupt
ev-
in a parliamentary system. You're talking to someone who comes from
my
Canada. We
God,
have a
shut
parliamentary
the
system. Shut the fuck up with facts.
the
Thank you very
up,
much.
yeah.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Away.
There you go. Thank you. Time for some unedited interviews here. Apparently, this guy hosts a show because he was really eager to step in. Coming in hot. What's your name?
Leroy.
Leroy. Nice
to
to
meet
Leroy.
you, sir.
Steven.
Nice to meet you. So I guess it's called build the wall, change your mind. Why we shouldn't
Yeah.
build it?
No. Why? No, I support building the wall.
But I'm telling you why I shouldn't build it. Why-
Okay, yeah. So let me just sort of assert my position first. So maybe because
Okay.
we might find some areas where we disagree versus areas where we disagree.
Okay.
I believe in securing the border, not just the wall, but securing the border, ensuring that we know who's entering the country legally and illegally. And if there's anything where you think I'm wrong, you can more than welcome to change my mind.
Yeah. From when it comes to like older standards, yeah, like I can see where you're saying build the wall. Put today's standards. Migration, we could tax those people coming into the country, and any money they make or any money they spend will go back into the economy. So when it comes down to taxes and people coming into there's a small, there's like, when it comes down to it, Mexicans, Latins, or whatever you want to say, illegal immigrants in general come into the country bringing drugs. And I personally, like, I'm not Mexican, I'm Spanish. I'm from, my family's been in New Mexico since the 1550s, around there.
Okay.
And I know a lot of Mexicans in general, and a lot of them are hardworking people, and a lot of them,
Sure.
a lot of them put into the system. So like when it comes to crime, there's like maybe a small percentage that brings drugs.
Yeah, well, I didn't bring that up. I didn't say that. I'm not saying that the majority of Mexicans are bringing in drugs or committing
No, I know,
crimes.
but I'm just going over over what Trump and everybody else has said about.
didn't
the
say
wall.
that either.
Or about other people in general.
Yeah.
And actually, he did
don't-
say that. No, he did say that. He said, if you go back, Trump said Mexicans are bringing all the illegal drugs into the country, this and that. Like,
No, hold on a second. There are two different things here because I want to make sure it's.
see, I'm like a little off date. I'm a little off because I've been caught up with the news for like the past.
Sure.
few months.
No, I know what you're referring to, and it was worded very poorly. But what you just said was that a majority, that most Mexicans are bringing in drugs or committing crimes. No, that's not. That's certainly not Donald Trump's position, and I can't speak for everyone else, right, who believes in securing the
Yes,
borders. Now that being said, not a majority of Mexicans at all, not a majority of even illegal immigrants at all, but they do commit crimes at a disproportionate level
But,
in
what-
comparison to legal citizens.
Yeah, what percentage though? Out of what percentage do you think? Say,
Yeah. So
what
like-
percentage is that? Do you think that commit crimes? I want to see your. I want to get your input.
Sure.
What
Well, it's not my
percentage?
input. So the statistics would reflect that about the 3.5% of the population of the United States are undocumented immigrants, but they commit 37% of the homicides, of the murders. They commit up to 13% of the violent crimes.
13%.
So 3.5% of the population,
Okay.
illegal immigrants, commit 37% of the murders in this country, and something, depending on which stat you use, 60
Yeah.
to 70% of drug trafficking related charges occur with people who are illegal immigrants. So not a majority of Mexicans,
Exactly.
but they
Immigrants.
purport,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
or immigrants.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Not even a majority of illegal immigrants, but they do commit crimes at disproportionate levels. So that's an issue.
Just anybody today nowadays creates crimes. You know, like
Statistically, it's not the same. Though.
Statistically, they're the ones bringing the drugs, but then statistically, who are the ones selling the drugs? Yeah, who are the ones selling the drugs? Other American citizens adding to the problem. So we can't just sit here and point a finger.
I'm not.
I'm
I
not
don't want
saying
to.
you-
I don't
I'm
want
not
to get
saying
off
you-
on the topic because you
No, I-
brought it to the drug thing. So
Okay, yeah,
here's my
sorry, I
question
get
for you.
off topic.
You're off the. You don't support building a wall. So I want to get your. I want to understand where you're coming from. Do you support any type of border enforcement? Any type of what should we do about the illegal immigration problem? What should be done? What would you do?
Just tax them, get them legal citizens, and just tax them. Put a social security ID number on them, some way, somehow, make them pass the test, and just tax them. Make money off of them. Why throw them out of the country when we could make money off of them? I'm not saying make money off them in a slave way or bad way.
no, I know.
And I know that's what I'm saying that for myself.
Yeah, I understand. No.
Yeah. So, but just tax them in general. Get them legal citizens. If there's
How?
Just make them pass the courses or whatever. I don't know what the criteria is today to make someone a citizen, but get them to be citizens, make them citizens, and make them put into the system. No, yeah, because the migration and immigration is not going to stop. It's only going to get worse. Times
Sure.
just like technology, everything speeds up. So that's only going to increase along with everything else.
So you believe in making them legal, giving them a path to citizenship.
Exactly.
But you don't support a wall or enforcing a border.
No, or any type of borders. I think borders in general are going to become a thing of the past, is what I've been talking to a lot of people, and it kind of, I really see it coming. Like I said, with technology and everything, people are going to just be able to travel super fast, cheap, super cheap, and go wherever they want. And it might not be now, but it will be in the next 5 to 10 years.
Let me ask you this: Would we both agree? Because you said give them the path to citizenship.
Yes.
But a lot of people who come into this country don't want to pay taxes and operate in the underground economy.
Well, then they have to get.
But will we both agree that no matter what you do, even if you grant them, that you're going to have a certain amount of people who are not going to pay taxes,
Yes,
who will
sir.
stay under the radar? Do we agree on that?
Yes.
Okay. So do you understand that what you just described by not securing the borders, you just talk about how we have this, we're never going to solve it because we can't deport everybody, right?
Exactly.
And you've just agreed
I agree
that a
too.
lot of them are not going to pay taxes and still stay undocumented, that if you don't
Oh, no,
secure the
not-
borders,
No, I didn't agree that. No, not a lot of them. There might be a couple, but I know a lot of them are
percentage.
A small
percentage.
percentage. Yes.
Okay. So if you have no borders, if you have no securing our borders, if you have no way to monitor who's coming in and out, you can see that what you've just proposed would create a veritable hell, a
Some
real
kind of-
problem.
Some kind of electronic ID tag of some sort. They have to have a passport of some sort of documentation. It's just not like, okay, I'm gonna walk. They have to.
How do you check that without a border wall?
I don't know. If they said this this is a free thought right now. So for me to execute this, I would have to get like a few mastermind individuals to really sit down and think this over. I cannot tell you a blatant answer right now. Yeah, I would have to sit down and
a digital
some
passcode
kind-
like you're talking
exactly
about.
some kind of digital passcode.
Sure.
Yeah.
So they would have to go through a checkpoint.
Exactly.
How do you
yeah.
get them to go through a checkpoint if there's no wall on the border?
It doesn't have to be a wall. It could be even like some kind of X-ray scanner that as you walk through it, your number goes into a database and it registers when you got there and when you left, and maybe there might be some other destinations that tag the ID, like in the middle of the city to kind of get a clue of where these people where these people are in the area. Yes, sir.
So an X-ray border.
Yeah, an X-ray. Yeah, an X kind of like, well, I don't know what like the proper scientific ray that's used, but like an X-ray gate that just reads your ID and says when you're there, and and maybe before you cross the border, like give it like a, I don't know, written explanation of why you're why you're going to that place, you know, and but let it be more free flowing, you know, like it's more free flowing.
So that's predicated on the idea that people who are coming here illegally right now will obey that. You believe that they'll have a written note as to why they're coming to the country,
Like I
and
said,
the X-ray border will catch.
Yeah, that's just a general idea, like, you know, written, whatever. That, like, I would have to talk to a group of individuals and think this over, computer engineers, and I don't know. I one day plan on being the governor of New Mexico, so I've been thinking a lot about a lot of this for the past 3 years. Yeah, because New Mexico has we're a sanctuary city, and we get a lot of these people, and we get a lot of
Santa Fe.
Santa Fe, New Mexico, and we get a lot of immigrants, and a lot of people don't like them, but at the same time, they may not like them. But I really don't see it slowing down anytime soon. As much as, just like off topic, but like when it comes to the drug war, we've been wasting millions, trillions of dollars since the 70s. And have we seen any positive? No. So like we're just going against the grain on this one, and
particularly without any kind of a border, right? It makes the drug war really hard.
Either way, you know, the drugs being brought in by immigrants is a small percentage compared to pharmaceuticals that already been on the news and been dumping billions and billions of opiates into, and every other drug. You know, I consider immigrants a small percentage of the real boss hogs, the real drug dealers that are out there doing it illegally, just because it's FD. Yeah,
I appreciate it. So I know, no, that's okay. I know you said, well, do me a favor here, because this is obviously about changing my mind. I don't agree with you, but I respect you sitting down.
Yes, thank you, sir.
So when you do sit down, and I know you kind of had this idea, you said it's going to take a while for you to formulate the idea.
Yes, sir.
When you do, I know you mentioned the X-ray sort of border and tagging, you know, then let us know. Email us through the website, and maybe we can have you on and talk about it. Because I don't want you to be on the spot if you're like, well, I need some time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, man.
My name is Leroy Trujillo, and I'm here with Go Green Global. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Leroy. Appreciate it.
Please. Mr. Crowder, if you'd like to make your opening remarks.
Hey! Thank you. Let's hear it for UMass Republicans putting this on. Come on, let them know you love him. Let's hear it for Milo. Let him know you love him. Let's hear it for Miss Summers. Let her know you love her. Time to listen up, you silly liberal fruitcakes. I came out here, I wanted to tell some jokes. Let's do some reality checks here. Do you have any idea, sir, how pathetic it must be to be you? These people wanted to come out and have a good time, hear a few jokes, some thoughtful discussion, but your head pops off the pillow in the morning with, oh, how can I be a professional victim today? Let me go in and screw with their act just because, oh my God, your parents didn't tell you that your opinion wasn't worth that much. Look, they're confused. You know why? Because I'm not your gender studies professor who has to cater to your trigger warning, microaggression, safe space bullshit. I didn't want to do this. I wanted to come out and tell a few jokes. You created this monster. We have to go. 10 more minutes of this. Let this reverberate. Let it be a life lesson. This monster right here that you're so afraid of, the face you see in your nightmares, was created by social justice warrior assholes like you. And now you have this wonderful faggot. That's what happens. We okay? We good? Yeah, we can. Yeah.
Darling, you can call me what you like.
Oh, okay, there we go. Crying out loud, listen. Nobody here wants to hear your opinion that much. And here's what's so crazy. You couldn't wait 5 minutes. Unlike leftists, we have an open panel and a Q&A session because we want an open idea. Oh, I'm a racist. There you go. That's a new one. Where'd you learn that one in Social Human Studies 101? Right next to the giant, I don't know, wild boar I couldn't see who said, there's no such thing as fat chicks. Guess what? If you think there aren't, you are one, okay? Did he just make a fat joke? Yeah, I did. No, it's okay, because I got some here, so screw you. I have a faggot pass and a fat pass today. We wanted to come out here and tell a few jokes. We wanted to have a thoughtful discussion. We want an open conversation of ideas. You guys can't be grown adults enough to literally wait 10 minutes to the point where we open the floor. And unlike leftists, guess what? We don't try and ban you when your speakers come to school. We don't show up and protest and call them, oh, shut up, you just got owned and now you're trying to come back 5 minutes later. It's like George... The jerk store called, they're running out of you, George Costanza, you androgynous little amoeba. And by the way, these opinions you're yelling out, they're not even your opinions. They're your opinions from your gender studies professor, and the really reason you picked it was because you thought it was your best chance at getting laid. You just decided to walk on in to try and pick up chicks at the San Francisco retread pot-smoking drum circle, only to realize that your very glance in the direction of a woman causes a barren womb. Oh, you think this is gonna get better? No, no. Is he gonna check his privilege? That's not going to happen. I don't want to come out here and give someone the finger, but it's because they walk out and this chick is a... Start a show like that. This is absurd. At least when you go back to like Christina Hoff Sommers' days, self-professed Democrats, hippies, the retreads that you guys want to be, at least they thought they were fighting the system. They thought they were trying to create transparency. They really thought they were for free speech. You people are openly and completely against it. You're not fighting for free speech. You're not fighting for rights. You're fighting for the right to be a pussy and not hear opinions that you don't like. I'm done.
Never done. I've never.
Thomas. Steven, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, so, this is just a series we do where we let people know my point of view. There are two genders. Go ahead and change my mind. It's the opposite of cable news. We're not going to edit anything out of context. You said you disagreed. I'm open to new ideas.
Well, I'm wondering the phrasing of the question. Are you arguing that there's not more than like man and woman? Or are you arguing there's not a difference between sex and gender, or?
Yeah, I think there are two genders, male and female.
Okay, so you're saying that male and female is a gender, not a sex.
Yes.
Okay, so.
Both.
Okay, and see that's where I would have to disagree.
Okay.
Is
How so?
saying that male and female is something that would be by birth. For example, you probably have a penis, a male sex organ, as would I. But
Why would you assume that?
do you?
But you assumed it, though.
Okay, I did. I apologize.
No, listen, you don't need.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to do any gotcha.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me that you assumed that I have a penis.
Right.
Why?
Because you seem. I don't know, man.
Is it because of a societal construct?
Yes.
That's why?
Yes.
It wasn't because of my bone structure or my penis bulge.
Well, that male and female is different than being a man or a woman.
Okay.
And the fact that we have, as a society, created man and the male gender roles, and just as women gender roles, just as we would anything else, the same way that we would say that I don't know, that music is good, or that we have created it to place people into roles. And so I'm saying that if you were male or female, if you identified more as a man and the gender roles that go with being a man, that you have that.
So you're saying
so.
you're saying that sex and gender are very different.
Yes.
Okay, I understand. So that's your premise. So that's based on kind of modern gender theory. When did that start?
I wouldn't know.
Okay. So why? Let me ask you this before we get to the history. Why do you accept that premise?
Because it makes the most sense to me. The argument that we've created roles such as being feminine, and we have associated it with being female, as opposed to being female is being feminine.
Sure. You understand that there are inconsistencies there. For example, with your presumption of my penis. Let me ask you this then: how many genders are there?
I would say we would say that there are two genders, being man and woman,
Okay.
and then that there would be people that don't accept either of those, and that would be in a X or non-identifying category.
But what's the number? How many genders are there?
I couldn't tell you.
Isn't that important? I mean, the point is that before 1948 with Simone de Beauvoir and then Judith Butler with sort of postmodernism, feminism theory, gender and sex were effectively interchangeable. You can even look on legal documentation, depending on the permit. They are legally interchangeable. I mean, this is the way it's been with societies for millennia. We've had male and female. So when you radically change that, you do have to have a number, in my opinion, and some kind of an end game. It can't just be, well, we're going to shift the rules based on how people feel. So I can understand if someone says, hey, you're wrong, that there's a difference between sex and gender, but the burden of proof at that point would be on the person asserting that they're different to tell me how many genders there are. Because we as a society, right, have to know this. We have to function within certain parameters.
And I would say that those parameters for gender would be whatever that person wants those parameters to be. If they identify as a man or a woman, or they don't identify, that would be their prerogative, and that it's not my place or your place to tell them that they have to identify with being a man even if they are male, or they have to identify as a woman even if they are female.
But we do that all the time. People want to be things that they aren't, and we say that's not the case. You know, we constantly do that as a society, so I don't understand why it's...
I'm really sorry to interrupt your conversation, but I have some logistical questions for you. My name is Lauren Chapman, and I work at SMU Student Activities.
Yes.
We manage the outdoor events request process.
Mm-hmm.
Are you the sponsor of this activity?
It's College Republicans, actually, and you can speak with Darren, wherever Darren is. He spoke with Drew, and we have a permission. So,
okay.
Thank you very much. So, sorry, I'd like to continue on that thought. Where were we? Sorry, I forgot.
You were talking about we do it all the time.
We do it all the time. So why is it a problem to do it if someone we know biologically is a male or a female, and that can never be changed?
Yeah,
it can never be changed biologically. But someone chooses to say that they're not. That's a very modern idea.
Yeah.
And the question is, why do we now have to subscribe to that? And then it gets into the idea of compulsion of compelling language, gender pronouns, what's allowed, what's hate speech, right? It's a fundamental retransformation of society based on, from what I'm hearing from you, unless I'm mistaken, abstracts. I haven't heard a number. I haven't heard what defines male or female.
Yes.
Only how people feel. And to me, that's not very convincing or conducive toward a productive society.
Okay, and I would argue that, for example, we're talking about like you said when I assumed that you had a penis, when I have no idea if you have a penis or not. And saying that people...
I got a nice big penis there.
Okay. And so that people, when people subscribe to being... you would say you see somebody that you would presume to be male, and you ask and you would assume that they would identify as being a man.
Sure. As you did, yeah.
Yes. And so if... but if you had told me that you in fact don't identify as being a man, that you identify as being a woman, I would believe that would be wrong of me to try and subscribe you to being a man when you say you identify as a woman.
What if I told you that I believe I am a bobcat?
Good for you, man.
Well, would you accept that? Would it be wrong of you to not accept it?
Yes.
Really? Okay, well listen, I appreciate your intellectual consistency. Why would it be wrong of you to not accept my identification as a bobcat?
Because if you identify as a bobcat, man, go for it. Great for you. I hope you're the best bobcat on the fucking earth, man.
Well, I appreciate it. Listen, I think you're a nice guy. I hope this has been productive, and I believe this has been civil.
Yeah.
But you do see, obviously, this is a very emotive argument that you're making, right? You're making an argument from a very emotional place, and I think it's because you're compassionate. It's because you're a good person. But and I appreciate your intellectual consistency, but the ramifications of saying that we have to acknowledge somebody legally who identifies as a bobcat, you understand, would be insurmountable. The ramifications would be all sorts of new legal identifications that would be required, which don't currently exist. Well, I would love it if you want to sit down afterward, and I would love to sit down and have continue this conversation. I would. Well, thank you, Thomas. Are you done?
Yeah.
I appreciate it, Thomas. Thank you.
I'm Madison. I'm co-president of Spectrum, the LGBT organization on campus.
Great.
Love to talk to you about this.
Great. Thank you, Madison.
So, what are
My
you
name's Steven.
Okay.
I appreciate it. You sitting down. And what is it that you disagree with?
So I think you're confused on the idea of gender versus sex.
I'm confused. Okay.
Yeah, okay. So when we say there are only two genders, we often confuse the idea of gender and sex.
Sure.
Sex is a generalization of XY chromosomes, so we assume that, or XY, XX, combination of chromosomes. So we assume that male and female comes from your chromosomes, right? But that's really just the idea that there's only two possibilities of sex, right? So even within sex itself, you can be born intersex, which
Okay.
means that you're born with sexual characteristics of both what we would consider male and female. And then you have gender, and gender is more about a mental state based off of societal norms. So within our Western society, we often discuss gender as being binary, meaning that there's two options.
Sure.
So boy, girl, man, woman. However, in other societies, non-Western societies, there are more than two options.
Okay. Can I ask you a couple
Yeah.
of questions there to unpack? Appreciate you taking the time, by the way. So what was your name?
Madison.
Madison. So let's go to the sex concept before gender, I think, because the idea of gender being different from sex is predicated on the idea that sex is binary. That's where you mentioned that term, gender
Yeah.
binary. So you mentioned intersex. Okay. I'm aware of intersex. Now, of course, intersex doesn't necessarily mean that someone is completely between sexes. Usually, they have very identifiable characteristics, like a very large clitoris or micro penis. In that case, it also affects 0.08. People think this is funny. It's just true. Less than 0.08% of
But
population
but
Earth.
they still
But they still exist. Let me ask you this. In human anatomy class, how many fingers are you taught human beings have?
We're told typically that people have 10. However, there are people born with 11
But you're
fingers.
taught 10, right?
Yeah.
So we don't teach people there are people born with 11 fingers, there are people born with 12 fingers.
Yeah, but we don't completely dismiss that those people exist just because that they're uncommon, do we?
We teach that human beings have 10 fingers. I would wager that everyone here has been taught, yeah, human beings have 10 fingers. Of course, there are anomalies. That's the same way that we treat intersex, or these, as you said, you mentioned chromosomes, genetic abnormalities that are a very extreme case. So I think what we need to do is remove this extreme case with sex, just as we would with how many fingers, toes, how many kidneys you have, how many feet you have. There's something that's typical, there's something that's atypical. Then you go to gender. This is where, listen, I'm open. Everyone has said sex is different from gender, and gender is not non-binary. So I would allow you to kind of unpack that for me.
Yeah, so in Western society at least, so in our country, in our society, we tend to think of gender to be on this binary spectrum of not even really a spectrum, just a binary. So you have man, woman, and that's it. Those are the only two options. However, gender really is more of a spectrum. So it's non-binary. There are not just two options.
Okay.
You have man, woman, and then everything that doesn't fit into just man and woman is considered non-binary. That's an umbrella term, and that includes a lot of different categorizations.
So how many genders are there?
You can't put a number on the number of genders because everyone uses different words to classify themselves.
I would disagree. That's where it changed my mind. I'm not convinced that anyone can just use any classification for themselves for their gender, and certainly not that then we have to compel society to address them this way. Right, I'm sure you can understand that the compelling of language is an issue.
So what gender do you think you are?
Well, I'm a male.
Okay, well I think you're a woman.
No, legally I'm a male.
Oh,
It says on my driver's license that I'm a male.
okay, so that's your sex.
No, yeah, I'm also a
That's your
male.
sex. It's your sex.
It says on
okay.
my carrier
So,
certificate that I'm a male.
What if I said I
Gender.
don't
Some legal
believe you?
documentations say gender.
What if I say I don't believe you?
It doesn't matter.
Exactly, it doesn't matter if you don't believe me.
No, it doesn't matter because biologically,
What gender do you think I am?
I would assume you're female.
Yeah, see, you're making assumptions.
Yes.
I identify as non-binary.
I don't, respectfully, it doesn't matter.
It does matter.
Now, let me ask you this. What would you say if I
It matters what pronouns you use for me. It matters how I'm
Okay.
socialized in society. It matters my gender expression. It matters the way that I'm allowed to express myself. It matters what bathroom I use. It matters who I'm allowed to live with. It affects every aspect of my life. So you saying...
What pronoun should I use?
You should use they, them pronouns. So you saying that you
And
don't
what if I
believe
don't?
me...
What if I don't?
If you don't, I would consider that disrespectful, and that's actually an act of violence to misgender a trans
It's an
person,
act of
or-
violence.
That is an act of violence to intentionally misgender someone, yes.
Here we come to the issue, and this is why I'm out here. You just said that's an act of violence. That means it's an
Yes.
actionable offense. That means it's a crime. So you believe that for
I
me...
didn't say it's a crime, I said it's an act of violence.
act of
There's
violence.
a lot of things that are not considered crimes that are acts of violence.
Okay, so you believe it's a non-aggressive act of violence.
I think that, okay, when you misgender someone, if you were to misgender a trans woman,
Yes.
Trans women, especially trans women of color, are have the highest rate of murder within the LGBT community, right? So if you were to intentionally misgender a trans woman, that could put her at risk of murder. You understand that? Because people think because you're trans.
I don't understand.
I think that really does show that you're privileged in the situation then.
Yes, I believe we're both.
I think you're extremely privileged in the situation that you don't have to experience that, or that you don't have to worry about that, or consider that you don't feel like you need to respect people's pronouns.
I'm considering this and I'm asking you questions. You said these are the pronouns I need to use.
Yeah.
I said, what if I don't? You said that's an act of violence.
Yeah, I would
so
consider that an act of violence against me.
Okay, so that's a crime.
I would consider that
an act of violence against you is a crime.
I would consider that.
So,
I would consider
do
you
you
being disrespecting me as a person, and that's not okay, and that's not even ethical. It doesn't matter if it's legal; it's not ethical. And I don't know how you can do something that's considered unethical.
I don't know how you can not allow me to speak and ask questions based on your own premises. Please, we're trying to keep this civil. I haven't yelled at you. I haven't accused you of anything. You're getting very heated. You said that's an act of violence. That's a crime. Okay.
I didn't say that was a crime.
An act of violence. You said an act of violence against you is a crime. So
I did not say that.
You said it is an act of violence against you.
I said it's an act of violence, and I said misgendering anyone's an act of violence.
Yes, you said it is an act of violence against that person. That is in fact a crime. So here's my question. Since we've now decided we don't know the number of genders, it's a spectrum. It exists. There is no set number. You've asserted the premise that we are required to use the pronouns that are preferred by the individual. We have no idea how many pronouns there are. We can never know how many pronouns there are. And to not use a proper pronoun is an act of violence against them. Did you ask my pronouns before you sat down?
No, I didn't ask your pronouns because
Why?
I haven't referred to you with pronouns.
You didn't ask my pronouns, though. You just said you can ask.
Yeah, you can ask. What are your pronouns?
But you didn't ask.
What are your pronouns?
You just talked about me being privileged. You understand? No one goes around asking pronouns before they speak with people.
I asked you
and so
how
to
you
ask of a
identify
restructuring
yourself.
of society
I did ask you how you
based on a number
yourself,
that's not tangible with gender versus sex is something that is incredibly corrosive.
Did I not ask you how you identify yourself?
No, I don't believe so.
Yes, I did. I did actually. You said you identify as male, and that would.
After the conversation, sure. Okay, well, let's say that. Sure. So we need to ask pronouns before every person. And if we don't use those pronouns, how many pronouns are there?
It's the same kind of thing. There aren't like a limited number of pronouns.
So people can see the sign, would it be okay if you just step aside for just a second?
There's not a limited number of pronouns.
Thank you very much. There's no limited number of pronouns.
No, I would say the typical ones are she, her, hers, him, his, her, his.
Okay.
Sorry, him, he, him, his, and they, them, theirs. Those are the typical number of pronouns. We usually use 3.
Okay. So I just want to, again, the goal is here to change my, I'm open to new ideas.
Yeah.
There's no set.
Yeah.
Different kind of space around us. I think no one's being accosted here. We're just having a conversation.
Oh, no, there's no question of accosting. We're just trying to bring the conversation so that it's not like a kind of like a separate stage spectacle kind of deal. So we're all in conversation around, and we can engage with your sign. And
sure, I appreciate it, but it's not though. Actually, it's a conversation between 2 willing participants right now, and I will
with
go.
Other people talking as well, though.
I'm not. I don't consent. So.
So this is your setup, and we're supposed to just follow your rules. And this.
Yes, when one is invited and we've gotten the proper permissions, and I've said.
An open campus, a college campus.
Sure, it's an open campus.
We can actually do whatever we want.
You can do whatever you want. You can protest, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to be engaging in conversation with the crowd.
Necessarily have to be my rules.
What's your name?
No, that's not incorrect.
I'm a student
But I would love to continue my conversation here. So when we talk about gender and sex, right? This is a very new idea. You said in Western society.
It's not a new idea.
Really?
No, it's not a new idea.
So when did gender theory start? When did gender and sex become separate?
Well, they're actually it's not necessarily the idea of gender theory. It's the idea that there have been different genders outside of man-woman for centuries.
Okay, how so?
Yeah, India.
India.
In
Sure.
India, they have third gender. Native American cultures, they have third genders.
Sure.
In ancient Egypt, they had third genders.
Okay.
So it's a very Western idea to say that there are only 2 genders and that this whole thing is a new idea changing our
Well,
culture,
you know what else
changing
is a
our
very
society.
Western idea? So it seems to me your presupposition there, correct me if I'm wrong, is that because other cultures have done this, there's a precedent.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think that
Well,
we're
you do-
hermetically sealed in any way.
So you do realize, and you talked about how very different it was from Western culture. So antithetical to Western culture, you named India, ancient Egypt. You know what else? We also believe in that's antithetical to those cultures. We're against slavery.
Why?
So just-
I'm sorry. I'm really confused as to why you brought slavery
Let me-
into
let me-
discussion
let me-
about gender.
I would love to bring it up.
Yeah, that's kind of a
My
red
point
herring
is,
on your
because
part.
your premise is because it's found in other societies, therefore it's okay. or it is to be good. My point
I
is
don't
there
see
are
how
plenty
it's
of other
harmful.
practices. Well, I'm trying to get to why I believe it's
Yeah.
harmful, and you're explaining why you don't. But the point is, if something was practiced in another society, and it was harmful in another society, and we agree that it's harmful, for example, we both agree that slavery was harmful, we both agree that maybe cannibalism is harmful. You can find these practices in societies. My point is, it's not a valid argument to simply say it's been found in other societies if that practice is harmful. So it comes down to the idea of, is it productive or harmful for us to separate the idea of sex and gender?
Other on a form, like you said, the ramifications for that in legal.
So that's the question.
so,
Other societies have done harmful things. I think we can agree
but
that
I
doesn't
don't-
necessarily mean that it's
I'm sorry, I don't
it's
think
okay.
I don't think respecting someone's identity makes that harmful. I don't understand. I don't agree with you comparing gender identity to cannibalism or slavery. That seems pretty offensive.
I know, it seems you
Yeah,
think a lot
it's
of what I've
pretty
said is
offensive,
offensive.
yeah.
You've been set up here from the get-go for it to be offensive, and I'm not trying to offend. Let me re-explain what it is. Take any practice, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Take the practice of neck stretching, for example, which is not harmful, okay?
It is harmful, actually.
Okay, well, some people don't think it's harmful. They don't think it's harmful
Mm-hmm.
in these societies. Take any practice that's relatively benign that we believe to be harmful that they don't
Mm-hmm.
believe to be harmful. The point is, just because another society at one point has practiced it doesn't make it correct. Can we agree on that?
I'm sorry. I think you're making really false comparisons.
No, I'm not.
I do. I think you're
Can we
making false
agree? Can we
comparisons.
agree? Because listen, there are also many societies the other way, right, who've only ever recognized two genders, two
Yeah,
sexes.
but that doesn't mean
That's
that these
most.
other genders don't exist.
That's most. So you're implying that those societies were wrong.
I'm implying that they have their other societal standards.
Right.
Societal standards are based off of a lot of things. It's very intersectional what we decide to accept in society. So if you're going to say, well, because you're
So a society
you're
can be
essentially
wrong.
making the same argument. Yeah, society
Yes,
can be wrong.
exactly.
Society was wrong about gay marriage. You know,
Sure.
I think people are wrong saying that, you know, gay marriage, being gay is unnatural and being gay is a crime.
Okay.
That's society being wrong. But you
Sure.
know what? We adapt to modern times, and I think that we need
But
to
you
be
just
willing
compared us to
adapt.
ancient Egypt and India as though that was a valid argument for convincing
yeah, in
me
India,
why
in
they
India,
have more.
this isn't an ancient practice. This is still going on.
Sure.
In other countries, this is still
But
going on.
you just said it's not fair to use other societal comparisons.
I'm
because we
saying it's
adapt.
not fair to compare
You're the one
gender
who did
to
it.
slavery.
No. I'm trying to get to the
That's
premise of the
literally
argument.
what I
I'm
said,
trying to
is
get to
you
the
can't
premise.
compare gender to
I'm trying to get to the
slavery.
premise of your argument here, okay?
The premise
and I'm
of
trying
my
to keep this as very
argument.
respectful as possible. You said this has been practiced in other societies for a long time.
Yeah.
My point is that's not an argument because there have been horrible things, maybe benign things, maybe semi-harmful things in other societies. We would both agree on that. So it's not a valid
arguing
argument.
to bring slavery back, though.
No one
That's
is
like
arguing to
great-
bring slavery
exactly.
back.
So why are you?
Well, actually, they
trying-
are. Of course, it still exists in other countries in
Yeah,
the Middle East and
so
some
I
countries
just-
that you've mentioned.
Like I said, I don't think you're making a fair comparison. And
Yeah,
I think you're
I
kind
think
of
I'm
going.
making a very fair
I think
comparison.
you're kind of just going on a tangent in order to try.
My
and-
point is it's not an argument.
It is an argument. I think it's an argument.
Okay, so
I'm
I will
arguing-
I will
I'm
use your
arguing that
ar-
our Western standards are not necessarily the pinnacle of what we should be doing. Western societal standards do not mean that we all need to be following the same thing because we're not all Western and we don't all follow those beliefs. So if a Native American
Of course you do if it's the law. We all have to follow the law.
yeah, okay, so yeah, the law is different. I think the law is different than a societal standard. So legally,
Well,
I
hold on a
could-
second. How is the law different? It is the societal standard legally.
legally, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Let's stay
So-
within those parameters.
Okay, sure. So, there's other countries that are considered Western that would recognize a third gender.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So why not?
So how many genders are there? It comes back to if we're going to change this.
After Crowder made negative statements about Fox News.
So we are sitting here talking about gender.
Yeah. So if I were,
So
as a person,
this is a modern theory in the United
Okay.
States, right? Sex
Can I
and gender
finish?
were interchangeable.
Can I finish
No,
my
I'm going to finish one sentence here, okay? I would appreciate that. You've been very privileged in speaking over me. I'm not convinced, right? The job here is for you to sit down and change my mind. And I think that's very productive for you to do with other people on campus. Right? I don't think this is a way to change somebody's mind.
I don't think you want your mind changed.
I have had
I
my
don't
mind
think you
changed.
want your mind
Well,
changed.
instead of assuming that, how about actively trying to change it? So my point is, you've mentioned that it's non-binary, but you haven't given me a number of genders and how we restructure society. You've merely pointed out that it's an act of violence to use an improper pronoun. See, I think that would have, you just talked about a societal standard. If the societal standard is using the wrong pronoun is an act of violence against somebody, I think that's an incredibly dangerous societal standard, and it's one that nobody can uphold consistently. Would we not agree?
Right. I mean intentionally using the wrong gender. I mean when you know someone's pronouns, you intentionally use the wrong pronouns because you don't agree disagree with them or you don't recognize their identity to be real, that's an act of violence, because that's purposely disrespecting someone. No one wants to be purposefully disrespected.
I believe me, I
If I
understand.
called you the wrong name all the time, how would you feel?
I would feel very disrespected if
Exactly.
you, for example, came in bombastically and other people interrupting. I'd feel very disrespected.
Hey, can she develop that act of violence thing? Like, where does that take us? If someone
Yeah.
uses the offensive pronoun, it's an
Yeah,
act of
so
violence.
it's
Where does-
intentionally using the wrong pronoun. So if you ask someone their pronouns or they would correct you and say, no, sorry, these are my correct pronouns, and you continue to disrespect them, you have to understand how much that puts a trans person at risk.
Yeah.
So does that person go to get arrested for using the wrong pronoun, or like it's an act of violence?
Act of violence, I don't, and I know that you like to say that an act of violence means that it's legally a crime.
It is.
That's not how I'm defining an act of violence.
It doesn't matter how you define an act of violence. This
Okay,
is the thing,
well,
we have to have
it
legal
doesn't matter how
definition.
you define an act of violence.
No, it
then, I'm
matters how the
sorry.
law defines the act of violence.
I don't think it does.
You don't think it matters how the law defines an act of violence?
I do. I'm saying that an act of violence does not have to mean that it's a crime. I'm saying that it's
An act of
disrespectful.
violence against another person, an unwilling participant, is in fact a crime legally. There's no way around
Okay,
that. Can
that's
we
great.
agree
So
on that?
let's- how about
Can we
let's-
agree on that? Let's find
I'm
some
gonna-
common ground. Can we agree an act of violence against somebody else is a crime and no one should commit it?
I'm saying no one should commit it. I'm not going to say that it's necessarily illegal, like a
Okay, but it is illegal.
criminal defense.
I'll
Okay.
allow
Can I
you to
finish-
assume what you want,
can I
but it
finish
is
my
illegal.
Earlier thought then?
I would like you to finish your earlier thought, but I think this is a very central point to the argument because this is one of the first things that you've said.
Yeah.
And we haven't found common ground. We don't agree on that. I do find that the idea of
Yeah. No. Sorry. Can I hear what she has to say?
Questions, and she
I will-
wants to take my question. So since this is an equal setup,
Yeah.
so
No, I appreciate. Well, you can sit down afterwards and we'll have a conversation. No, listen. I would like to have a conversation with one person, and then you can all line up and have a one-on-one
mind taking my
conversation.
question.
But I do. I don't consent.
So it's
So
I think
I'll
that
have a one-on-one
you should allow her
conversation.
to have the microphone, so that it's not just you shoving the microphone in her face.
I'm not shoving a microphone in her face.
You
I'm simply
are.
holding
This
it.
is what you're doing. So let her have the microphone.
But you just said this is not an equal setup. I've paid for this microphone. This is my microphone. So would you like to have her take your place?
I would like to finish my thought that you haven't let me finish yet. Actually.
Okay. Do we have a time code? Do we have a time code? I believe it's been about over 30 minutes, but go ahead.
Yeah, so I would like to finish my thought because it actually hasn't been over 30 minutes. It's been less than 30 minutes.
Okay, go ahead.
So my thought is that you talk about legal ramifications. How many genders are there? Okay, so when you have countries that recognize third genders or non-binary gender options, you know how they put that on their form? Non-binary, other,
Yeah.
third gender.
Right.
How is that complicated?
Well, can I tell you how it's problematic?
How is that problematic?
It's problematic because you have people who've been sued, arrested, or put out of business for unknowingly using the improper pronouns, and that's the point that I'm making. There's been you're referring to a societal standard. What can be filled out on a form?
Yeah.
That's your premise. I'm saying there's been a societal standard, one that's biologically based, for millennia, which we've now changed, and we're punishing people who don't agree. So you may think it's disrespectful for someone to not use the pronouns that you demand. I think it's equally disrespectful to demand that somebody live in a spectrum that hasn't been agreed to, and they don't even understand.
What businesses have been put out? Who's been put out of business for not using the right pronouns?
Oh, in the UK, this happens all the time. In Canada, Bill
can
C-16.
you name a specific business?
Yeah, and Bill C-16 in Canada is really important. For example, we have comedians who've been put before human rights tribunals
So
for
Canada
using improper
recognizes
pronouns.
a third gender, though.
Canada does.
Legally recognizes
Yes.
a third gender. So
Yeah.
the law is their legal standard. That's their societal standard,
Right.
right? So the people who aren't agreeing with that aren't agreeing with their societal standard.
Right, but it's a societal standard that flies in the face of biology.
But
and
it's
my
a
issue is,
societal standard that's legal.
So do you believe that people should be put before human rights tribunals for using the improper gender is biology? It was until 1948. You know that, right?
No, I don't agree with you on that. I'm sorry.
Okay, but when did gender theory start?
I don't know the year gender theory started. I'm sorry, I'm not a human encyclopedia.
Okay, it was 1948, Simone de Beauvoir and Judith Butler. These are people, by the way, when he started it, there were still only two genders. Gender was a grammatical issue, usually used to refer to as a noun. I'm French-Canadian, so in French we have masculine and feminine.
Right.
It really is a very new concept and one that is not rooted in any kind of biological precedent to say that there are unlimited genders. That's the issue. And so when you are jailing people and punishing people for not adhering to an entirely new system that
They're
you
not
yourself
adhering to the law.
that you haven't defined, I do think that that's a problem. I think saying that somebody using improper pronouns is an act of violence against someone, I just disagree. I think that's I think it's a real problem, and I would hate to
it's
see
not
this.
disrespectful.
I think it's disrespectful to force somebody to use pronouns
I think
that are
it's
being
so
invented by the day.
If I told they're not being invented by the day, I don't know where you're getting that information.
How many genders are there? How many
I didn't
pronouns
say
are
that.
there?
I can't define the number of genders or the number of pronouns. I'm
Exactly,
sorry, I
because
don't know
anyone
how
can
everyone-
determine them. They are being invented by the day.
Yeah.
New genders each day.
So if I told you that I identified as, you know, if I said, hey, I want you to use just my name, not my pronouns,
Sure.
does that make you uncomfortable?
No.
Right. That wasn't hard, was it?
No, it wasn't hard.
Yeah, exactly. That's what people are asking you to do.
No.
Yeah.
You know, as a matter of fact, you have, people, you have a TA. We just had her on the program yesterday, who, on Monday, who got in trouble for using the student's name because a student demanded that he use masculine pronouns even though she was a girl. And he said, "Listen, I'm not comfortable with that. I will use her
If it's
name."
masculine pronouns, I believe that person would be using masculine pronouns, and you just misgendered them.
Yeah, I used the name.
You said
he
her.
He used the
You
name.
just said her.
Yes. Yeah, I did because she's a female.
That's not how that works. I think
That is how that works.
So we established.
That is how that
previously-
works.
You agreed with me previously that we established previously gender and sex are totally different.
No, I
things,
don't
right?
agree.
How do you know that person's a female?
I know that because of biology. And here's the thing: gender theory.
Did you look at them? Did you like happen to just like examine them and decide that person's a female because of what you saw? Is there external genitalia?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you genuinely feel that I've been interrupting you more than me? You keep saying you're not able to finish a thought. I haven't finished a phrase.
I think you just finished a phrase.
Okay, do we want to score points or do we want to be? I think you've been
No,
interrupting me
I don't-
quite a bit. And you just assumed a premise that I don't agree with. No, that's my point that I've not been able to make is gender theory, as you're describing it, is very new. It started with Simone de Beauvoir in 1948, and what you're discussing is the idea that actually came with Judith Butler. The first time there was this idea that there were more than two genders was John Money. I'm sure you're familiar with that case. That's very new. And there's no biological backing behind this theory. It is based on an emotive response. So I don't agree that gender and sex are separate. Legal documentation sometimes don't say they're separate. We're trying to adapt that now based on how people feel. And I don't think that we should adapt the law considering something an act of violence because someone uses a pronoun which is biologically correct because you consider it an act of violence against you.
What's a biological pronoun?
He, her, his, her.
How do we determine that?
Whether they're male or female.
Yeah, but how do we determine that's? What if we decided that she, her, hers was what we were going to use for males?
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We right now.
Yeah, right now.
We have male and
right
female.
Now. So that's
his
a
or her.
current standard, right?
No, it's a biological standard.
The words that we use are based off of like what we as a society use, though.
Not
right?
entirely.
Yeah,
No, they're a reflection.
linguistics is pretty societally based.
Okay.
I would say.
Amphibian.
What about amphibians?
Is that societally based?
An amphibian is I don't. You know what? I'm not a science major, but I will say an amphibian is a like scientific classification of an
Reptile.
animal. Yeah, it's a classification of an animal species.
Bush, tree, blueberry.
Yeah. Okay.
Are
so
these
what's
societal
your
terms?
point?
The point is that language is a reflection of standards that we have as a society. Are doctors sexist?
I think some doctors are sexist.
Are doctors transphobic if they refer to their patients who have a penis and they come in for a prostate exam as a male? Is that doctor hate speaking? Is that an act of aggression?
I think if that doctor misgenders their patient, then yeah, they are being transphobic.
Okay. Well, my mind has not changed, but I think I tried to find some common ground. I'm sorry that we didn't.
Listening. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry that you feel that way.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madison.
I'm not gonna shake your hand. Thank
I
you.
figured.